before 2021, when we first started getting into all of this, I never really thought about money at all. It never even crossed my mind. Like, thinking about how it works and the fact that money is power and how it can control people so much, never gave it a second thought at all. And then once you start to kind of like peer behind the curtain through the lens of Bitcoin, you just see like how mad it is, how mad this kind of idea is, that we're all trading our time for paper money. You're in a nice space, man. Where are you? What's this?
I'm at my place. I've just rearranged things a little bit. I got a new camera. And I actually got a light arrived today, and it's the biggest fucking light you've ever seen. It has this shroud and it's like 2 meters wide. So it's like, I took it off, but it was like right there, and it was like half the room was just the shroud of the light.
Yeah. And you've got some like acoustic foam in the background.
That's right.
I can see.
Yeah. So, Japanese houses can be a bit boomy. So it's nice to have a bit of softness to the room, sort of give it some treatment. Yeah. But Simon, how have you been?
Good, man. It's been a long time since we've recorded a podcast, which is quite exciting.
Podcast, it's been a couple of years now.
Yeah, literally podcast's been a long time. It's been nice. I've really missed it, I really missed our chats. But people probably don't know, but we started a podcast together. That was sort of the genesis of it all during the COVID era, conversations late at night. Yeah, that's why I have this lovely microphone sitting here.
Yeah. Well, you are a musician as well, but that was quite formative though. I mean, if we look back on that period, I think how many episodes did we do in the end? It was
probably 20 or
30,
yeah,
and
20, 30.
It was kind of crazy times, man. I mean, how have you reflected? Because we got into it. It was all about creativity in a chaotic world, and things were pretty crazy during COVID.
We'd both just moved back to our home countries after being away for quite a long time, and I think I was a little bit kind of I was very glad to be back home, but also at the same time I was kind of trying to find myself in this new environment, which wasn't actually new, but it felt new for me. It's my home, but I was looking at it through different eyes. I think the podcast really helped me a lot.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, for both of us. And I mean, because we were both in Tokyo, and then you went back to the UK, I went back to New Zealand, and we sort of kept that creative relationship going. But yeah, I mean, I agree that podcast was really valuable for me, and it helped, verbalize things that were maybe bouncing around in my head during those crazy times. Yeah,
it was mad. We had some really nice guests as well. Taylor Dupree was amazing. That episode was really nice.
Yeah, it was quite interesting, because that was also around about the same time that I was getting into Bitcoin, and I believe you're actually the first person that I ever orange pilled.
I think you did, and it took some time. It took some time for me to really fully understand what was going on, and I know that we definitely dabbled with a little bit of Ethereum first before we fully jumped into Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had Bitcoin first, but I think our creative outlet was playing around with NFTs, and we had a little bit of a go there during that hype cycle. But I think between the two of us, pretty quickly we worked out that there just wasn't quite something right about that world, and there was so much just bullshit. And it was kind of like, I felt at the time, there was something going on, and it was to the backdrop of all of the COVID stuff, literally being locked in our houses by the government and all of this crazy stuff. And it was something about, there's this new thing happening. And I think Bitcoin for me came first, but then a little bit later, just during that bull market, there was the whole NFT thing, and we gave it a go. And I mean, we dropped a few NFTs on OpenSea, and it was interesting, right? But I think it was an exploration of kind of what's possible and what, what does this all mean? And I think as you and I went through that, we started talking a bit more about it, more about the economics, and in particular, the role of the government and the state in our lives. And we sort of started realizing, okay, there's something a lot more important here, and that is Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, I think I realized really quickly with the NFT thing that it didn't matter how good the art was. It was all about how you shilled it and how you could sell it on Twitter and get an excitement around it. And that felt very empty immediately for me. And then I think I was on the beach one day and we were having a chat, and you said you started talking about Bitcoin, and I didn't quite understand it at the beginning, and I thought it was exactly like Ethereum, but of course now I know it's all Ethereum is exactly like Bitcoin, or it's sort of like built on the same idea. But I think you did orange pill me, and I really thank you for that. I look back on those times, and I wasn't working. I just arrived in the UK. It was quite an exciting time. It was quite a confusing time because I didn't really know what all of this kind of crypto world was all about. But yeah, I think you pushed me to learn a lot. You said, if you're gonna go into this Bitcoin thing, you really need to understand it for yourself, because you don't want to just believe what other people are telling you. It's really important that you do the research yourself. You do the work. It's a proof of work, right? You need to do the work. You need to research yourself. You need to understand why it makes sense for you. And that's why I don't ever I don't tell anybody to buy Bitcoin. Like, I don't tell anybody, oh, you should do this. This is gonna change your life. I say, go away and do your own research for a week or something like that. Listen to the audiobook of Saifuddin and sort of try to figure it out for yourself, right? That's really important. It's really important.
Yeah, it's verify, don't trust. It's one of the
That's
classic.
Right. That's it. Yes,
classic pieces. And I think for both of us, though, I'm trying to bring more of this creative element into what I'm doing with this show, and really, I think, in homage to the roots of what we were doing with Conversations Late at Night, which really was quite incredible, talking to different artists, musicians, creatives all around the world at a time when the world was really quite crazy, and trying to bring some of that back into the conversation with Bitcoin, because you and I have had this creative partnership for pretty much like 8 years now. I think it's coming up since we first started collaborating. And as people might know, you're a musician, but you did the opening music for this show. We've done a whole bunch of work together. You've done music for my exhibitions and various projects, and it's been quite fruitful. But I'm keen to just talk a little bit about your life in London at the moment, Simon, because I know we do catch up sort of every now and then, and I know you've been going through a bit of a challenge kind of living in the mega city of London. So, tell me a little bit more about that. What's your life like at the moment in London? Yeah,
so as you might be able to see, I'm still on the boat. I'm living on a narrowboat in the centre of London on Regent's Canal, which is a gorgeous canal. And it's been 4 years. It's coming up to 4 years since I've been living on the boat here, and I've had a good time. Like, I've really enjoyed it. I really do feel like it's quite close to nature, even though I'm in the middle of the city. I feel like I'm kind of living among the birds, and the geese kind of swim by, and the swans come and peck at the side of the boat. It's quite fun. And it's sort of, it's given me a little bit of taste of kind of off the grid living, almost. Like I've lived sort of a little bit separately from the grid of London, this crazy mad city that I live in the center of. My rent is very low. My commute to work is really short. I do get to live in London, but without the sort of high rent that everyone is paying to live in this city. I don't have to pay a huge amount of money for commuting and stuff like that. But after 4 years, I just realized that cabin fever really is a thing, and I'm really kind of struggling. It's very mentally kind of claustrophobic to live on this tiny boat. Like you can see you can see my whole boat, like right here. This is the whole thing. And I live here with my wife, and our relationship is luckily still going strong. I don't think other people could survive it, and we almost didn't, like it's really quite hard to live in such a small space, but we make it work. We do our thing. We get away from each other when we need to, sort of thing. But yeah, that kind of off-grid living, it's made me think a lot. Living on the boat certainly has given me a lot of financial freedom, and it's allowed me to see the craziness of London almost from the outside, even though I'm living in the center of it. So it's very much a big fiat city where money just runs everything, right? It's just everything is money, and the price of everything is just going up so much. Even in the last year, I've just noticed the prices in the supermarkets are just going through the roof. Even in the sort of cheaper supermarkets, we're shopping there and just getting so much less quality for what we're paying for. It's mad what's going on at the moment. I feel like it's a real struggle, and I feel like we are almost trapped on this boat in more ways than one, because we've looked at trying to rent in the city. We've looked at sort of what the options would be if we did want to leave the boat and move into just even a 1-bedroom apartment, or even just a studio, even just a studio where the kitchen and the bedroom are sort of one room. And our rent would be like at least 2.5 times more than what we're paying now. And then, of course, you got to add on bills and council tax, and then I've probably got to commute as well to work, and then that's going to ratchet up the price as well. So while I've been really blessed and lucky to have this boat, it's just made me see. It's made me see what London is really like. I've had that distance to really see the kind of fiat nature of everything, and it's made me really sort of question, am I really enjoying London? No, the answer to that is absolutely not. I'm not enjoying London. I'm not there's a big London tax, right? You live in London, you pay more for everything, but for that tax you pay, you get sort of a good nightlife, and you get good culture and all of that, and you get, nice places to go and nice cafes and bars and stuff. But I'm not taking advantage of those things. So bars, for example, I don't really go to bars because, it's mad expensive. And we went out on New Year's Eve, and we just had a few cocktails to celebrate the new year, me and my wife. And the bill was like crazy money, it was insane. And so if you're going to be doing that every week or every weekend, and got to have this big social life because you're living in London, there's just no chance to really survive.
Yeah. How does that contrast though with what London used to be like for you? I mean, what was your earliest experiences with London?
So I studied here in 2007 to 2010, and back then I was a student, so basically had no money. I had a bit of maintenance money from my student loan, but I remember going out a lot more and being able to enjoy the city and being able to go to pubs with my friends and buy beer for, £2, which is like $3 or something. And now beer's costing £9.50 easily.
So it's
so
the
I think
price that comes back to the money.
Yeah, the price has gone up, but also what I've noticed, And what is happening around the world as well, it's not just an England problem, but the price of everything goes up, but the quality goes down. So what you get for what you pay for is less quality than what it used to be. And we've all seen it with like shrinkflation, right? And Toblerone bars are the most famous example recently, where they hollowed out the in between the mountains of Toblerone bar, and everybody was up in arms. But yeah, I really feel that. Like, I really feel that lowering quality, and it even goes as far as things like the service industry in London. So the service industry here absolutely sucks, and I have to be really careful, because I don't want to get into a negative. I don't want to just be negative, right? So I've got to be really careful. But it really does suck. Nobody gives a damn.
Let me pull you out of that hole, man, because I know what you're talking about, man. I mean, I fully understand. I mean, we've talked about this when we have our catch ups, and I mean, London. I mean, you're in this interstitial space. I mean, you're living literally on a canal, on a boat. You know, you can sort of see it from the outside, but from within it as well. And it's kind of this interesting place, right? And there's not many people who get to see things like that, and so it's actually a very unique position, and I think it's very fitting for you as a creative person to have that kind of space where you can, you can see the world out your window in a different way. And we don't see this so much because people get into the rat race, and London is a crazy city, right? And I was sort of I find it quite interesting as a sort of, there's this cultural connection with New Zealand, and just sort of, the history of empire, built from London, right? And sort of what that means. And you sort of scroll, one of my hobbies, I like going on Google Maps and sort of looking around a place and just sort of getting a feel for it. And if you look at it, there's this massive financialization. You've got this huge city, and then the rest of the United Kingdom basically is servant to that city. And it's, I mean, a clear example of the Cantillon effect. The money printers in London, and everything, the people who are closest to that, do the best. But there's sort of a negativity to that, which I can feel in what you talk about, and it's totally cool. We can chat about this, but I guess the bright side of all of this is, I mean, we came into Bitcoin, we started talking about Bitcoin, and you're now living in this fiat city, but you kind of carry Bitcoin ideas with you. So maybe throwing that into the mix. I mean, how has Bitcoin helped you sort of understand kind of the situation you're in and sort of where things are at in the world?
It's a really good point. Thank you for pulling me out of that negativity.
It's all good, right?
Spiral that I was just going down. Well, one thing that is amazing about living on the boat is that I've been able to save quite a lot.
Stack sats.
Yeah, exactly. Like literally stacking sats. I've pretty much been saving almost 30% of my paycheck month on month, especially for the last year. Like I really focused last 2024. And I think it's given me breathing space to really think about the financial world and the kind of status quo that we're all sort of wrapped up in. And stacking sats and learning about Bitcoin and kind of getting a taste of something different has really excited me. It's really exciting. It does feel like kind of the financial world is kind of rigged. It feels like you're in a rigged casino. And if you don't know like the rules of the house, then you're guaranteed to lose. There are ways to make money in this fiat system, and if you know them, then you're going to make so much money. But if you don't know them, you're just going to sort of like struggle around, just like spend.
Well, the rules are interesting though, because there's kind of like a cloistered knowledge. It's like they're not rules that you would come to from first principles. They're rules of the house. And so there's a certain coded language, and there's mental gymnastics required to be the kind of person who's working in central London in the financial world. And there's a reason why things like cocaine are so popular in London, is because you have to burn your soul out to get through that stuff. and there's a reason why people are just stressed out and busy in the grey concrete, because there's just like it's not right. There's something not right about this, and they know it, but they can't express it because they're in that system. And that, I think, is something I can sort of feel about that, the kind of greyness of it all, and you're learning to perform, and, you're doing it through these rules of the game, but they're not natural rules. There's not there's not first principles that inform it. And so it's kind of feels like it's this cognitive dissonance potentially.
Why do you think this has become the norm? Why do you think this has become so pervasive?
I don't know. I mean, it's like, where's all the wealth going though? It's sort of like it's being squeezed out, and it's going somewhere, but maybe that's going to places that we can't see, and it's sort of maybe again being hidden away in this kind of, what we think of as normal people. We think the way we earn an income, we earn a salary, for example, and it's sort of we think of that as money. But there's all of these places where it goes. For example, property and investment properties, and that's maybe the lowest rung of this, which is getting started. But maybe there's other places where it's going, and we look at the wars that are taking place and just some of the stuff, and you think, okay, well, what are the flows like? Where's sort of this financial energy coming from, and where's it going? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not in that system. I don't have any agency in that world, and it's just very confusing. You just feel like you're maybe adrift at sea, kind of hanging on, and you don't really have any control. But I think with the Bitcoin, again, flipping it and sort of looking at it through that Bitcoin lens, that absolute transparency is. It's so refreshing, and that idea that you have agency, you can run your own node, you can hold your own keys, you can do this stuff and be part of a system that, from first principles and from natural kind of a natural law approach, it really just makes sense that you own, you have your keys, you have your Bitcoin, you kind of have this ownership of it, that there's this kind of agency that you don't have in the fiat system. So as to where it goes, man, I don't know. I mean, does anyone even know where it's going?
No, absolutely not. But one thing that, I am really excited about is that I'm actually seeing my wealth, because of Bitcoin, I'm seeing my wealth increase over time instead of decrease. And, it's definitely been very much compounded in this last bull run that we had at sort of the end of 2024, and seeing the money that I'd saved that was boringly increasing a little bit over in time in Bitcoin, and now to see my wealth after all of this bull run, it's just exciting. It's great that I can finally control my finances, and I can see that saving is actually doing something now, instead of being sort of frittered away by sort of interest or kind of inflation, exactly, sorry, like saving in a bank with my measly 4% interest, it feels like pouring water into a leaky bucket or something like that, but Bitcoin is kind of like a bucket that holds on to its value, or at least grows its value. Well, it's taking me a bit of time to realize that and to understand that. But yeah, it really is. It is really working.
Yeah, it's quite incredible the way you, again, those natural tendencies to want to put away for the future, right? It is kind of even in like other mammals, they like store acorns and stuff, and this is a survival mechanism to save for the future. But the fact that you can't even do that with fiat money is just so crazy, and so it leads to these kind of behaviors where you really want to save and you diligently try and put a bit of money away, and it's not. It's not giving you the outcome. It's not giving you the response that you would naturally expect from the world. From the first principles, you would expect that you'd be able to save it and put it there, and it would at least hold its value. But the fact that it's like losing its value, and it's losing it at increasing rates, at changing rates in ways that are not really relevant to what you're doing. It's like external forces that you can't even see that are affecting your savings. There's just this kind of craziness to it, and again, I just think it's all connected, so that if you're working in that world and, you're close to that machinery, you can't see it. And there's this kind of myopia and this kind of, I don't know, this kind of technical approach where you learn about the spreadsheets and the algorithms and kind of the machinery of the current financial system, but you can't really understand it as a system or an ecosystem, because if you start looking at it like that, you're going to become a Bitcoiner, and that's pretty true. Like, there's a lot of guys who get out of that system and they become Bitcoiners and they think, man, I left that behind. They sort of go down the rabbit hole by studying what money is, for example. So it's very interesting. And again, for you and me, our creative backgrounds and kind of how we've approached that, because we didn't go through, the financial world or any of that. We came at this kind of as artists and as kind of thinkers and creatives, trying to make sense of a crazy world where the government can close a country and print money and cause inflation, and then it just opens things up again as if it didn't really matter and it wasn't really a big deal. You know what I mean? It's sort of...
Yeah, exactly that. And I before 2021, when we first started getting into all of this, I never really thought about money at all. It never even crossed my mind, like thinking about how it works and the fact that money is power and how it can control people so much. Never gave it a second thought at all. And then once you start to kind of like peer behind the curtain through the lens of Bitcoin, you just see like how mad it is, how mad this kind of idea is, that we're all trading our time for paper money, or sort of like this, this thing that they can just print more of, and nobody really understands that before kind of looking into Bitcoin and sort of like looking into the financial system. Nobody really understands that they can just kind of make your bank account have extra zeros if they want to, or take them away, or it's oh man, I'm ruined. Basically, I'm ruined by Bitcoin, but in a good way, because now it's like when you study film and then you studied film at a university or something, and then you go and watch a film and you're sort of analyzing the edits and the shots and the music and the acting and all of that, and you sort of ruin film for yourself. It's kind of like that with me.
Yeah, I think you ruin bad films maybe, but
true. Well, that's true.
You're able to cognizantly work through good films and understand why they're good. But that said though, with the Bitcoin thing, you and I, we had an awesome weekend in Kyoto last year, and I caught up with you when you were visiting, and we went for a walk and a big talk through the beautiful temples and kind of the landscape of Kyoto, which is a beautiful city, and we talked through all of this stuff because you and I were both trying to work out again how this creative artistic impulse that we share to kind of understand the world and create meaning, how that connects with Bitcoin. And I just wanted to circle back to that conversation and just sort of see, because it's probably been about 6 months now, just how that has maybe sat with you, if you've been able to incorporate any of that sort of thinking into what you're doing with your music and your creative work.
To be honest, my creative work has taken a bit of a back seat in the last in the last 6 months since Kyoto. I am working on some new music, which is quite exciting. But basically, there's been some other stuff going on in life at the moment, like some kind of big shifts in my thinking, and one thing that I've come to realize 100% since our meeting in Kyoto and since my holiday, I was in Japan for about 2 weeks back then, 3 weeks maybe, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. One thing that's happened is that I've realized that I want to move back to Japan. Like, as soon as I'd stepped off the plane that time in May, I think it took about a couple of hours before I was saying to myself, God, I wish I lived back here. And that idea, that seed of an idea that little throwaway comment in my head has grown into something quite substantial, and I'm becoming increasingly frustrated with the UK and the way it is at the moment. You know, a lot of this is to do with money, but it's not necessarily just because of that. It's because of, you know, the riots that we had last year, the grim outlook of the economy, the general malaise in the country. There's sort of like an underlying kind of like bubbling. There's an anger in the air. It's very frustrated. A lot of people are very upset at many things, and that sort of like that exploded with these riots that happened last year about the three girls that were murdered. And then it sort of like caused riots across the country. And anyway, all of this is just to say that I'm, I think I'm kind of done with living in the UK. Yeah. I've had my time here. It's been wonderful to come back and see family and to be close to loved ones. And I've really thoroughly enjoyed that. But looking now at my future and thinking about kind of freedom and how I can gain the most freedom. Sorry, my throat today.
No, it's all right.
I want to be back in Japan, and I want to go back to running a coffee shop again. This is what we did in Tokyo. Me and my wife, we had a coffee shop in East Tokyo in Edogawa, and we worked for ourselves and we built this business, and it was what we wanted. It was our thing. It was our dream. We, you know, the amount of hours we put into it reflected the things that we got out of it. And that's what I want again. That's what I'm trying to work towards. You know, here I'm working for a company who I really love. To be honest, I really enjoy the company that I work for. I have a great boss. Love him a lot. But at the end of the day, 5 days of my allotted 7 days are working towards someone else achieving their goal, right? And so I am giving up my time to make somebody else rich, and this is wrong. I shouldn't be doing this. So in the last 6 months, I've been thinking a lot about this and sort of what we left behind in Tokyo and what I have here. And we've decided to move back to Kyoto. Me and my wife, we're moving back this year. We're just going through the visa process right now, getting everything sorted. But I think what it is for me is it's a step towards my goals, and it's a step towards freedom. It's a step towards, or it's a step away from kind of working for somebody else and sort of living almost paycheck to paycheck. It's a move away from that, and it's a move towards freedom, which I'm very excited about. I can't wait to see.
I'm excited too, because you and I have been talking about this sort of stuff, back and forth, and it's interesting because we've kind of followed the same path in a sense. I mean, that's I guess why we've been friends for so long. But you know, I left New Zealand and came back to Japan, and it was funny because if you go back to our podcasts from Conversations Late at Night, you and I were both over Tokyo. And I mean, in a way, I still kind of have not too sold on the concrete jungle of Tokyo, but Japan as a country, I mean, it's an incredible place. But I think we both needed to kind of go back and sort of see what the rest of the world was like, and go through that period of COVID and all of that stuff, and go, get into Bitcoin and all of the stuff that's happened, to kind of see it, to then realize, okay, maybe there's sort of a round two back in Japan. And I mean, I certainly look forward to catching up with you and spending a bit more time with you working on projects, kind of like the old days, but it's sort of a revisit of what we were doing, and I think there's a sort of a maturity there of like going back and sort of taking a look and taking stock and doing some of the work with, family and personal stuff that, I had to go through that myself back in New Zealand, and there was a lot of stuff that happened. But then coming back and in a sense, Japan isn't exactly a pumping place. I don't think there's anywhere in the world right now that's pumping. But the decline, I guess, of this late stage project that we're in, it just has a different kind of feel here, if you know what I mean. It's sort of, there's sort of a bit more of a humbleness or a simplicity to it. Whereas, I think of, I don't know if you've ever seen that film, Children of Men. Have you ever seen that? And it's this kind of dystopian kind of late stage UK with just like kind of fascist overtones and just this really grey, grim place. And it really feels like that's maybe what the UK is heading towards. This kind of, not to be too negative about it, sorry, but it just feels like there's this sort of decline, this kind of ugliness to it. That if I contrast that with Japan, which is more of a simplicity to it that I really respond to. And I don't know, I think for us creatively, having gone through both of those, it's given more to our work. And you've been working on stuff, right, while you've been in London. I know you've taken a little bit of a break lately, but certainly some of our collaborations over the last few years have kind of been informed by that, I guess, that contrast between what we knew before and what the world's like now and all of that.
I think I resonate a lot with what you said, that we were kind of done with Tokyo. We both were, and I was quite it's weird because we had our own business and we were separate from that kind of rat race kind of
salary man
commuting, salary man commuting to work every day on the tube. We were very much removed from that, both of us, but you felt its presence, and it was quite odd to be very close to such a big pulsing city like Tokyo, and even though we weren't kind of integrated into that rat race, I still felt it. I still felt its influence. And I kind of equated Tokyo to Japan, and I thought, because I didn't like living in Tokyo, I thought I didn't like living in Japan. And in hindsight, because hindsight always teaches you, right? In hindsight, I was frustrated with not being able to communicate in Japanese, right? This is something that's so common with foreigners who live abroad, anywhere abroad, but particularly Japan, right? The foreigners who don't really deeply learn Japanese just always feel on the outside and always feel like they're separate, they're other. And looking back on my 3 years in Japan, I was very frustrated, and it was a self-made frustration. Like, it's because I didn't make the effort to learn Japanese as much as I should have. So I did feel very other. I really resonated with foreigners at the time who were saying, oh yeah, Japanese people, like, they always treat you like a foreigner. It doesn't matter if you've lived here 20 years, blah blah blah. And I was like, yeah, they always treat me like another. I'm always that gaijin, I'm always that foreigner. But I think that's just it's a negative view, and you can sort of get wrapped up in that really easily. So one thing I said to my family when we told them the news that we were moving back to Japan, there was a very good question from some of them. They were like, yeah, but you weren't quite happy living in Japan. You left for certain reasons. And I said, that's true, but this time I know what my hurdles were. I know what I had problems with, and I know now what I need to do to jump those hurdles. And really there was two hurdles that really stopped me from thoroughly enjoying Japan, and that was my language was not good enough to communicate and to express myself and to have good conversations with people who didn't speak English. And also because of that, I didn't quite have the community around me that I really wanted, because I couldn't thoroughly converse with people. I was always relying on my wife to translate, or if I needed to go to the city hall or the post office or doctors or something like that, I always had to rely on my wife. And so there was those two things are the reason that I kind of left Japan in the first place. And there was a family personal reason back here in the UK that sort of pulled me back. But I now know I have the tools that I need to overcome those issues, which I'm really excited for. And I think this might sound silly, but I think you leaving Japan was also it made me like miss you a lot, you know, and we had in our creativity, because you left Japan before me. And I felt like, oh damn, I've just lost my buddy, you know.
Oh man, I'm sorry. You're gonna come back though, and it's gonna be fucking awesome, because we got a crew now, and we got the studio here, and I just feel like second time round, man, it's given me a lot of hope in a way, man. I don't know how to really connect this all. I mean, it's kind of the life, right? But with Bitcoin as well, and this kind of self-sovereignty concept, which I was always really into, but I hadn't really consciously given it a structure that I could work towards. I've always been into just doing my own thing and having that degree of agency, but Bitcoin kind of just made everything come into focus. And I was like, okay, this is the way, this is how you do it, and there's technology, there's like a process to follow, and you can do this, and you can achieve self-sovereignty. And it's like, man, that's pretty awesome. And again, when you bring that into, say, what, our life in Japan and our creative work, everyone's got their own story, man. Like, Tokyo's a huge place. You don't have to be part of the masses. You can do your own thing, and have your own cafe. You can have your own business. You can do whatever you want. And it's just sort of like a power in that, kind of choose your path. And it seems like some of those paths are not available when you're in a fiat place that is really, suffocating with the price and the cost of living. But at least, thankfully, with Japan, it's a lot more affordable for living than the UK or New Zealand, to be fair. And so there's sort of this little bit of an opportunity, a little bit of a delta that you can take advantage of to build things and to create and express yourself, and kind of those higher level self-actualizations of creative work, which are really important to people like you and me, right? Like, we can't not create. It's kind of it's just part of what we do, right?
It leaks out of us somehow. There's no you can't plug it up. But I wrote when I was on the plane back to the UK from Japan in 2020, I wrote about my time in the country, my last 3 years, and the very first line that I wrote was that Japan was an enabler. And what I meant by that is that Japan enables you to do a lot of things that you maybe wanted to do. It touches on exactly what you were just saying. So in Japan, the micro business really thrives. So like small, tiny businesses run by husband and wife that are really true and honest, and it's just literally two people running a shop every day. But they only sell coffee and a couple of cakes. They do well. They make enough money to pay the bills. They make enough money to pay rent, to pay childcare, stuff like that. These micro businesses are really, it's fine to do. And there's also a lot of, I don't know what the official term is, but I call them slash businesses, where it's like coffee shop slash letterpress printing studio. Or kind of like, bakery slash coffee studio or something like that. Like, they have these kind of two businesses that are together, and maybe they will be run by two separate people, or maybe they'll be run by the same two people, and maybe during the day it will be a bakery where they're selling wholesale bread, and then in the evening it's a bar or something like that.
I've seen
There's loads of this.
Yeah.
It's
like lunch. Lunch and dinner would be two different businesses, so do
Yeah.
tacos in the lunch and then it's a bar in the evening or something. Yeah.
And maybe that happens here in London, but I haven't heard about it. I haven't seen it. I haven't come across these businesses. And I think because there's this whole kind of pressure with rents rising and stuff, and people can't afford to take risks on these micro businesses. Unless it's an online business, right?
Yeah, here's an idea for you then. So if we think about it, you and I have experienced Japan in a period when the kind of golden age of Tokyo was in the 1980s. That's way before us. And we don't even know what that was like. But, that was a money town. Anything was possible back then. But with the stock market crash of 89 and the property bubble and all of that, basically the whole 30, 40 years sort of thing, or 30 years, it's just been, in this kind of post-boom kind of malaise. But because it's been so long, it's kind of gone through its downturn. And so there's kind of now these seeds starting to sprout again. And, the whole Heisei era, which was like, 1989 through till 2019 or something, that period with the Heisei emperor period, that was like, the whole time was just like, recession and, nothing really happened. But in a way, it meant that these smaller businesses could start kind of coming out again. And I think that's maybe an interesting place because maybe the UK is sort of coming into its collapse right now, but it's going to have to go through a period of pain for it to come back to the London that maybe people once loved, and a lot, for these structures to kind of collapse a bit more. And so in that way, there's this kind of like, I don't know, they call it this eschatology, this kind of study of the end times, where it's sort of like the city is kind of crumbling and it's kind of not so nice to live in, but maybe there is like kind of a sort of structure after that and a form that it takes on, 10, 20 years from now that's actually maybe pleasant again, and this is sort of the changing nature of places. And, maybe Tokyo right now is that. It's just kind of a place, kind of a former global city that is able to be populated now by maybe creative people and different kinds of people in a way that maybe it couldn't have done, in the 1980s because things were so expensive back then,
Yeah, that's a really nice view, actually. Yeah, I didn't think about that. But I definitely agree that the UK can be great again. And it might take a long time. Great again. But yeah, mugger. But yeah, I think Mugger. Yeah. I think there's a lot of opportunity for Bitcoin businesses. Well, to bring this back into Bitcoin, my move back to Kyoto, I have a dream to open my own place again. That will probably be a coffee shop. I'm not 100% sure yet, but if I do get there and I open my own coffee shop again, then I would like to integrate Bitcoin as much as I can. So allowing patrons to pay in Bitcoin, maybe offering something like a discount if they pay in Bitcoin. And I would like to start something there. I'm not sure if there is a Bitcoin community in Kyoto at all. I'm sure there is in Tokyo, and you're starting to, get together with those people. But yeah, I wonder if there's anything in Kyoto. Do you know anything going on?
Not off the top of my head, but I think there could be something really interesting where if you build it, and people start coming and, again, Kyoto is just an incredible ancient city with, just these beautiful mountains and temples and this long history. And I think it really suits what we're talking about here. And I mean, this was our conversation we had 6 months ago. We were walking around and talking about this, and it's like, you can do this now because you've got the concept of Bitcoin in your mind, that there's this lower time preference. You can build stuff that's future focused, and I think if you do this and you integrate it and you start working with it, you'll just see more and more people maybe come, and the wealth that you're saving as well starting to continuing to increase. And so it's sort of, I don't know, it could be really exciting, man. And there's a whole lot of stuff that sits alongside that. You've got your obviously your creative work. Maybe it's a coffee shop with a music studio attached or something like that.
There we go. That's the / business I want.
Yeah. Well, because I've been thinking about this myself, you know. I mean, one of my key words for this year is community. I think, you know, the world's just still kind of... I don't think we've ever recovered from the COVID era, man. Like, things have just kind of continued, but I don't think we've really... I don't think we can go back to the way things were. And so, you know, with everything going on right now, you need to have people that you can talk to and you can be honest with, and that's community. And I think spaces and places, like physical spaces that you can go to, are going to make a major comeback. And I think they are starting to. I mean, I organise a Bitcoin meetup here in Kamakura, and it's awesome. Like, we go for walks up in the hills, and there's the bamboo groves and the old temples, and we just talk about stuff, and it's really nice. And I think as things start to get crazy, you know, maybe there is this increase in kind of decline and maybe a sort of in-shitification, as some people would call it, where things just start getting worse and worse. You know, I think having people that you can talk to and go and do stuff with is going to be really important. And
that's true. And keeping a positive mindset, you know, trying to keep positive. And that's one thing that I'm sure you're very good at. You do call me out on my negativity a lot, so you're very good at noticing it, and I'm sure you're good at noticing it yourself. But yeah, just like trying to keep things positive, keep things light. You know, I have spent the last hour kind of shitting on my country, but you know, it's full of wonderful things, and I've met lovely people here, and I've really enjoyed myself.
I mean, maybe there's just other parts of the UK, like again, you know, maybe London just needs to go through its decline, and we can all, you know, move to the Midlands or something, you know.
Yeah, there we go. Scotland or something like that.
Oh, I mean, Scotland would be incredible, but I mean, it's interesting as well, because I mean, if you look at Scotland, you know, what was its decline like in the 1970s under, you know, with Thatcher and the deindustrialization of Scottish cities. You know, that's a whole study, but I mean, that happened. You know, it used to be this major economic centre, and then it all just finished one day, and that would have been tough. But you know, what kind of comes after that is really interesting. And you know, what does it mean creatively? You know, as places transform. You know, like I wouldn't even call it deindustrialization, but it's like the in-shitification of cities. And people just not wanting to live in cities anymore. Like, what does that then mean for those cities? Like, after everyone leaves and they sort of just hollow out. Like, maybe they'll go back to the warehouses. You know, people living in warehouses and artists moving in and maybe. And that's like the cycles, right? So I think it's all, you know, everything has its season. And again, for us, you know, coming back to Japan, I think it could be really awesome. And you know, we work on some stuff, and you know, if we can bring, I guess, that creative Bitcoin thing, I think there is really something emergent there. That's you know, because I got another friend who I speak with who's in the UK. He's an artist, and you know, he's a Bitcoiner as well. And we're sort of starting to see that there's a connection here where actually, you know, the kind of the culture makers and these kind of creative people starting to use Bitcoin and understand it, that has an impact on the way we see the world and the stuff we're making, because we just have a different lens. You know, it's like we're not on the rat race, because I mean, even in the creative world, there's a huge rat race, right? And you know, you got to sort of sell yourself, and I think this kind of changes that, you know, that logic a little bit. You don't have to play that game. You can do your own thing, and I talk about self-patronage quite a lot. You know, you can pay for your own work to be built, you know, and created. You don't have to sell it into the market, and that just means so many more opportunities for creative work emerge that weren't possible before, because you just put a bit of Bitcoin away, and then 4 or 8 years later, you know, it's worth way more as it monetizes. And then you can just do some other stuff, right? And it's just, I don't know, it's just a whole new dynamic.
I like that idea, man. I really like that. Yeah. That's exciting. The future's exciting. The
future's exciting, man. I'll do it, honestly, man. It's going to be awesome. We're going to catch up.
Yeah,
and
I'm coming to Kamakura straight away. I'll be there within like 2 weeks of arriving in Japan. I'll be on the Shinkansen, man.
Oh man, that's gonna be awesome. So you haven't got dates yet or anything?
No, we're just going through the visa process at the moment. The visa should take between like 1 to 3 months to come. From now, and then once it comes, we'll sort of start booking tickets and planning it all and everything.
Oh man. Well, I mean, I'm sure we'll talk more before all of that happens, but, we'll definitely, if you need anything, just hit me up, man. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have there's going to be a scene, man. We're going to create some stuff because I've got a few guys in that area now in Kansai and Kyoto. So we can make some stuff happen, man. But I appreciate you sharing your story, man.
Thanks, man.
And I know you're doing a bit of writing as well. So if people want to follow your story, your music, your writing, where do you want to send them?
Thanks, man. Yeah, so I'm over on Substack, which I really love. Substack is such a nice community. It's very positive, and at the moment it's really wonderful. So you can find me at ohio.substack.com, and Ohio is OHAYO.substack.com. Yeah, I write about kind of creativity and Japan and sort of London as well a little bit, and kind of a little bit about gardening recently. But what I want to do with this Substack is I want to move it a bit more towards kind of exploring the secrets of Kyoto a little bit more. I find that a lot of tourists in Kyoto, they go to the same 10 places. It's like Fushimi Inari and Kinkakuji and all of those kind of like tourist hotspots. But I want to talk about the hidden places, the kind of locals recommendations, and I want to hunt them out and I want to share them. So yeah, if people are interested in kind of seeing a different side of Kyoto, please come and follow me.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, thank you for sharing, being open and sharing what you're working on and sort of your journey. But because I think that creative take, sort of the lens we have as kind of artists is certainly in the fiat world, and it's just kind of craziness. It certainly is getting tested, and it's really important, I think, that we keep on sort of seeking out meaning and sort of producing the work that we're doing. And for me, the transformational value that the title of this shows, it's like how things are changing, and there's a certain power in that and exploring that. So yeah, I look forward to doing more stuff with you and catching up again in the future, man. But yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, this has been great. Thanks, man. Really appreciate it.